You move your eyes all the time, but do you ever stop to think why you do this? You move your eyes to navigate through a crowded street, to people watch or observe people's behaviors and manners as they're interacting with others. You move your eyes to make and pour your morning coffee. You also move your eyes to read the morning newspaper, to observe people's expressions and reactions when you're speaking with them. And you move your eyes constantly while driving, watching for pedestrians, cars, and the environment around you. But your eye movements are not only important for completing these day-to-day activities, they're also used to perform highly skilled actions or movements, such as in playing sports. Take volleyball, for example. Skilled eye-hand coordination means locating where the ball is in the air, predicting its trajectory, and adjusting your movement accordingly to hit the ball at the right place and time. But skilled eye-hand coordination does not come without a lot of practice. People learn to perfect their performance over lots of repetition, years and years of repetition. But what if your ability to perform and your capacity to learn these skilled eye-hand movements is hindered? This is the reality for people with brain injury as a result of stroke. Yet we don't fully understand the impact of stroke on eye-hand coordination, which has huge implications for how clinicians prescribe and administer therapy. Now, the focus of my research is to better understand how skilled eye-hand coordination works in healthy people and to explore lived experiences of people currently living with stroke. And I hope that my research will shed light on the importance of studying eye-hand coordination after stroke. My name is Cristina Rubino, and I'm a doctoral candidate in the Rehabilitation Sciences program in the Faculty of Medicine. And my long-term goal is to enhance neurorehabilitation and the quality of life of individuals living after stroke in Canada. Now, my primary research question is to investigate how human visual processes support movement, specifically how eye movements support learning of novel motor skills. You might ask, well, why is studying how people learn important to stroke recovery? Well, if we know how these processes work in healthy individuals, we can begin to unpack them and better understand how these processes work after brain injury. And then go on to develop novel rehabilitation strategies that may enhance people's recovery from stroke. So we know that learning new skills is represented by changes in behavior for that specific skill, which is also supported by changes in your brain structure and function. Now, the capacity for change is something we call neuroplasticity. And in fact, not only developing brains are neuroplastic, but mature or adult brains are also neuroplastic. And your brain can learn after injury. We also know that the brain takes visual information that it receives from your eyes, which it is acquired from the environment around you, and it processes it in a specialized area at the posterior end. It then sends this information to other parts of the brain that are responsible for planning and executing our movements. So it is well known that vision and action are highly connected in the brain. Think of brain connectivity like an airport, a network of people incoming from different parts of the world. They may stay or they may travel elsewhere, much like how chemical and electrical information in our brain travels and creates networks of communication. So when learning a novel skill, like playing the piano, for example, at first you're not so good, but with practice you become better. And this is because you have created permanent changes in your brain structure and function following skilled practice. We can measure changes in brain structure and function by using magnetic resonance imaging, or MRI. And this allows us to take a snapshot of what the brain looks like, its structure, for example, and we can isolate brain regions or whole networks that are used by the brain to perform a skill, like playing the piano. So if we look at your brain before you start to play the piano and after you become an expert, then we can isolate a unique pattern of activity that supports piano playing. So back to my main research question. We use our eyes every day. We know how vision is processed in the brain and how it integrates with motor regions in the brain to produce coordinated movements. But what we don't know and what's not so clear is how vision is used by the brain to learn a new skill. Now, remember, learning is the foundation of stroke recovery. And in fact, recently it was shown that 40% of individuals with stroke have some form of visual impairment. Yet there seems to be a lack of focus on improving visual motor function after stroke. And this could be due to several reasons. In part, this is because of a lack of accessible technology that can measure eye movements together with limb movements. But now there exists eye tracking technology that can record when and where people move their eyes while engaging in activities, like playing sports in virtual reality and walking on different types of terrain as depicted here. So we have the technology now, but we still need the neuroscientific experiments to better understand how vision is used by the brain to support learning. In my doctoral research, I will investigate this question by using integrated eye and hand tracking while participants learn a novel task. In the lab, we have a KinArm, which is a robot with integrated eye tracking to measure eye and limb movements in real time while a participant performs a task projected on the screen in front of them. And while they're performing the task, we can see and record their movements, as depicted on the computer screens to the right. So I'm interested in examining the change in behavior as well as the change in brain function that results from training. I'll measure people's brain function before and after they engage in learning. And I hypothesize that eye movements contribute to how people learn. And there is a unique functional network of combined visual and motor brain regions required for learning skilled eye-hand coordination. Now, as a separate project, I'm also interested in understanding people's lived experiences with stroke. And this work is possible through support from the UBC Public Scholars Initiative. And I hypothesize that the prevalence of visual motor impairments after stroke in Canada is actually higher than we expect. And the current practices of assessment and rehabilitation for people living with this combined impairment, so combined visual motor impairment, is not clear or consistent across sites. Community engagement is a critical component for bridging the gap between research and the people it directly impacts. So by surveying the community, this includes clinicians and patients, and interviewing people with stroke, as well as reviewing the current literature, I will fill these gaps and improve our understanding of visual motor impairments after stroke, both quantitatively and qualitatively. And my goal is to take the foundational knowledge gained from the laboratory research together with the community engagement work and set the stage for future clinical research that will enhance understanding of stroke prognosis, diagnosis, and treatment in Canada. Now, all of this work could not be possible without my sources of funding, and this includes support from the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council of Canada, as well as the Canadian Partnership for Stroke Recovery, internal funding through UBC, including the Public Scholars Initiative, and my 4-year fellowship. Now, I am also actively recruiting, and so if you are interested in participating in my research and you are a healthy individual, right-handed, and aged between 18 and 35 or 55 and 75, please email me at crubino@student.ubc.ca. Thanks for listening.